Alrighty, good evening everyone. This is H0 here, back with another quick movie review. This one is one of my, well, technically one of my Stephen King favorites. But a lot of people really don't like this one. They're very mixed about it. Technically the book and the movie itself. This one is The Mist, and it's pretty much the best way I could describe it. A little bit of the precursor of The Walking Dead. You know, pretty much presenting how humanity can be flipped if they're thrown in a situation, and it was just on a small, scale. And it's kind of ironic how I say that because Frank Darabont, the creator of The Walking Dead, he worked with a lot of the actors on this project, before they got to the show. I think it's about like five actors. Off the top of my head, I really can't, name them all. I think it's Melissa McBride, um, Jeff DeMunn, no, not Stephen, Laurie Holden, uh, who else? Sam Witter, and the gentleman that played Morales. I think his name was Juan something. Pardon if I didn't get the name. And ironically, also Thomas Jane was technically supposed to be on the show as Rick. After they had worked on this particular piece, but I'm gonna get to what the movie's about real quick. Then I'm gonna talk, of course, about the behind the scenes stuff. Even though I kind of just jumped around right there. So, pretty much the movie, just like the book, it's about it's a regular family man. He's with his son. It's a big storm that happens overnight. Uh, they wake up. You know, of course, after a nasty storm, debris and whatnot's crushed the house, and potentially their electricity went out. They had to go get some food and whatnot from the grocery store. Just a simple, run. Some days even I do that, or I have caught myself doing that. Um, so they go out, and then they even see the mist coming over the lake, and their neighbor even mentions it, and it's pretty much bit by bit setting up, for the mayhem to come later. So they're in the store, they're about to leave, and then all of a sudden, a local townsman runs in. He's bleeding and he's screaming something in the mist. And bit by bit, they get more proof that there's monsters in there. They go in the back of the loading bay. One of the bag boys is grabbed and pulled through. And of course, in a crisis, the good thing is that Thomas Jane's character, he's already, after seeing what had happened, he's pretty much, mentally okay. This is a life or death situation. Nobody else knows unless we tell them. So, he is one of the main strong characters in the film. And as you know, everybody in the store eventually sees what's out in the mist when people start getting killed. I think it was a scene where they were marching out in the, right directly in the mist, and then the half of a corpse comes back, and then people are freaking out. So another good theme that the movie correlation to the Walking Dead show is that it really has the whole science against religion thing. One of the characters starts some kind of religious cult. And the funny thing, I'm just putting this out there, if that was me personally, I would have killed her a long time ago. Spoiler alert, yes, she does get killed. She gets shot in the head. And I'm only saying that because I personally dealt with someone who's just like that. They weren't as crazy into killing people yet. I bet you it would have folded if they were thrown in a situation like that. And it was technically a commentary on not just humanity, but, religion and politics, everything in our social circle, because even a little bit of a somewhat political standpoint was in this movie as well, with one of the characters. I think his name was Andre something. Because him and the main character were going at it. They had a lawsuit against each other, and then it's much more of a deeper meaning. I think if you listen to the audio commentary, and it was just this whole, like I said, it's a really a reflection of our humanity, precursors to The Walking Dead, pretty much. It really showed the nastiness of what people are capable of, just like what, you know, the Drayton character said, you throw people in a situation and you scare the shit out of them, they would do a lot of uncompromising things. And a lot of films have a good commentary on that. I know the Belcom Experiment did. Of course, the Saw films do. I saw the Saw films. I didn't see the Belko Experiment though. It was pretty much, I think it was trying to fill the gap of Saw just a little bit. But I'm not really going to spoil much of the ending. I will say this though, it was different from the book. Regardless, both mediums had a scary, unknowing outcome, because even the way the movie ended after what, the father, Mr. Drayton had did, it was pretty much scary because it never didn't show what happened after. Pretty much the movie's message really was to have faith. Salvation was right there, and then it was, like a bad joke. It was thrown right back in their face when they were prepared to meet a certain doom. But with the book, I haven't read it all the way to the end. I only read bits and pieces because, I heard on Cinefix, the way Stephen King's films are adapted is really indirectly the director's creation. The best example is The Shining. The book and of course the movie was two different interpretations. But ironically, King said he didn't like the movie that much, even though that's kind of hard to believe because it is a classic, Stanley Kubrick. And like I said, that's why I mentioned Cinefix, because if you watch, What's the Difference, and I think they even did one on The Mist, it had a different perspective of how, the director saw the form of the book, just like how it is with the movie. So getting into some behind the scenes stuff, the creatures, I kind of did like how they were portrayed. There was still a couple that I really wanted to see. They didn't have much behind the scenes of the concept art of what these creatures may have looked like. I don't know if there's a special edition of this movie or not, but I know films like Cloverfield and I think what was that recent one, A Quiet Place, they all had concept art of the creatures at least. Hopefully when the DVD comes out of A Quiet Place or the Blu-ray, I'm debating about buying it, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I know I'm going to see the movie eventually. It's just not up to my high expectation or priority, I should say. Because I do love, creatures and creepy monsters and all that. I have a future horror comic book story or a graphic novel, I should say, that I'm planning. I'm always looking for ideas, especially involving, aliens in Area 51 and just some abnormal stuff that, someone has never done before. The good thing is that Hollywood and good imaginative people, they have good creative ideas, especially Guillermo del Toro. That guy's amazing at what he does. Pan's Labyrinth and Blade 2. I think Blade 2 was the first film I saw that he ever did. And of course I had a little bit of my personal experience of working at a morgue, so that pushed my imagination even further, of creepy things. But I really believe the real fear is not really what you can see, but what you can't see. It's kind of like the thing that's around the corner, and it's watching you, but you can't see it, and that's the scary part. Another good going into gaming a little bit, that's why Resident Evil had worked a little bit, because not only it had a fixed camera angle, but it was looking at something in the corner that you couldn't see, and you were terrified for a couple of seconds. And even with the Resident Evil 4, it had captured the same fear. I'm not going to talk about the two other games because it was more action packed, but I remember the first time playing 4, and you just want to run through a certain area, and it was kind of scary that you don't want to stop because you can hear something over there. It would be throwing something at you, or it'd just be a nasty sound coming towards you or something like that. So it just hyped up the fear of what you couldn't see. I think that's also why some good movies had certain selected movies who knew how to play on that did very well. The Blair Witch Project was one of them, and then of course Paranormal Activity. It just gave more of the mystery of your imagination being all worked up of what's around the corner. So I didn't really see, but someone had told me about some of the special effects behind the scene. I know the tentacle monster that came in through the loading bay, that was actually a guy in a sheet, and he was moving at a certain pace, so they can animate, his wave like movement, and he was tearing the flesh off of Norm, and I can already visually see that because I've seen a lot behind the scenes what they can do with motion capture. Jurassic Park is a very good example. Well, I should say the newer ones where they motion captured some of the movements of the dinosaurs with people. Excuse me. The Velociraptor the most because that was the most terrifying dinosaur of the film. Let's just admit that. But this film is really good. Like I said, it has a very good commentary. My mom didn't like the movie that much. I mean, she liked the suspense, but she was, of course, pissed about the ending. And movies do have a good job at making you do that. I think I mentioned the horror movie The Boy. I think was one of my reviews, and I remember my homeboy and we went to go see it, and I remember he was legitimately pissed about the ending because I wasn't really afraid of living doll movies, and then that one had redefined it a little bit for me and made me pay attention. But if you see the movie and you see the twist, you'll like it, but at the same time you'll be mad. If you see all the trailers beforehand, it'll get you worked up, and then it was very clever at what they did in that one. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say. There's some other good actors in this film. William Slater, I seen him act. I think the first movie I seen him in was The Shawshank Redemption, which was also done by was written. It was a book by Stephen King, and I think it was directed by Frank Darabont. And he's been in other couple films. I know my most favorite with him in it is, of course, The Shawshank Redemption and Tales from the Crypt, Demon's Night. And it was probably another one as well. I think he was in The Green Mile, but I don't remember him, vividly. Oh yeah, he was in The Green Mile. Yeah, he was the girl's daughter, but he didn't have that many scenes in the movie. So I'm trying to think of some other actors who are in this. Of course, Thomas Jane. I love his acting. The first movie I saw him in was Deep Blue Sea, and then I seen him in in The Punisher. He did do a good job to me in The Punisher. I don't know why a lot of people hated it. Well, I heard a lot of comic book nerds didn't like it. I think the average person never read the comic book. He did a good job playing Frank Castle. The human side before he warped into the straight up killing machine, and it was still balanced. A man that had lost something. Of course, the precursor actors of The Walking Dead are in this. Melissa McBride, she appeared in the beginning of the movie. She's pretty much out of the Walking Dead cast members to survive throughout the whole thing. She pretty much looks the same, from the start of season 1 to this film. I can't remember the time exactly. I know season 1 of Walking Dead came out like in 2010. I can't really remember when this movie came out. I want to say like around 2006 or 7. Again, you can correct me in the comments. It could have been 2008. What else I was about to say? Laurie Holden does a good job in this. You can really see the Andrea prototype character. Jeffrey DeMunn, who also plays Dale in The Walking Dead. He does a good job at being the little bit of the moral compass here. I can't remember the black guy's name. In the beginning, his name was Andre something, but it was his idea with the writers, and I think with Frank. They said in the original opening it was going to show the portal of how the mist had really came through, and he was the one that had convinced them to not do it. It would have gave more of the mystery, just like how you couldn't see some of the monsters. The one monster I really wanted to see was the one in the parking lot. It was like this crab thing, and it was just one of the creatures they never showed. Everything else you see on the screen, pretty much you see the giant monster with the tentacles. You see that at the very end at how big it really was. And last thing, going back to the portal thing, I'm glad they didn't show that either, because on my It review I said that all the movies connect and the Dark Tower is their centerpiece, and it would have been odd and weird if you see what they said, their door became a window, and you would have saw the actual tech of that door, being open, and it's just like from the Dark Tower. So, even beyond the Dark Tower, outside of the Dark Tower story, I think the Arrowhead Project name appeared in another book. Off the top of my head, I really can't remember. I want to say it's the Tommyknockers, but I could be wrong. But besides the Dark Tower story itself, or the theory you might want to call it, the mist, the Arrowhead Project, that was responsible for it spilling over. It does appear in, like, I'm assuming, like, 2 other stories. Again, like I said, I want to assume it's the Tommyknockers. I think I vaguely seen it reading it the other day. But again, we can talk about it in the comment section of this video. Yeah, talk to you guys later. I see you in the next one. I'm trying to think of what the next movie is. Let me get the light, because I'm looking on my wall like usual. Oh, the next movie is I Am Legend. So yeah, can't wait to do that one, because that's a nice deep discussion as well. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace.